Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Matt Powers Show podcast. I am your titular host, Matt Powers, former superhero and comic book star, and now elder millennial podcasting, because what else do elder millennials do? We podcast. It's actually the law here in America. You have to podcast once you turn 35 and you're from this generation. Guys, thank you so much for listening today, for coming here and finding this podcast. If you're a returning fan, thanks for coming back. I love my fans, however few I think I have at the moment, but I appreciate you all coming and listening to me and talking with me. If you're new here, let me just tell you what we're doing here. This is a discussion podcast. What that means is all I'm doing is I'm picking a topic that I want to talk about, and I'm talking about it. Now, it's not to prove a point. It's not to say I'm right and someone else is wrong, right? This is not a debate. It's just something that's been on my mind that I kind of want to talk about, and my friends are sick and tired of hearing me talk about this stuff, so I thought I would just record it and throw it out into the universe and hope somebody hears it someday and goes, ooh, that was interesting to listen to. So if you're here to hear whatever the topic is today, then I'm glad you're here. And if you're not, you stumbled upon this for some reason, hey, stick around. We got a lot to talk about today. And actually, the cool thing that we're going to talk about today, so Ghostbusters Afterlife came out last week, so that's where we're at right now in time. And I know on Monday we talked about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Well, today, I have been for years, I've had this idea for a Ghostbusters TV show, a live-action show. Now, so you kind of understand, first off, I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. I've loved Ghostbusters ever since I was a kid. I think it was one of the first movies I ever watched. I was like 3 when I first saw it, and I've loved it ever since. I've seen it a bazillion times as an actual number. But when I was about 9 or 10, my dad got for me a game in a box, a tabletop RPG with Ghostbusters from a company called West End Games. Now, this is a company that for many years held the Star Wars license, and they made a Star Wars tabletop role-playing game. This is sort of the predecessor. This was a game in the box from 1986, and it's a very basic, very simple system, and I've had that my whole life. I've kept it. And I still, to this day, now at 38 years old, I still run this game every now and then for people, because it's super fun. It's so much fun to run. And in doing so, I've sort of crafted this narrative. And as I've done so, these sort of one-off game sessions, like episodes of the show, I've gone, well, this should be a show. This is what Ghostbusters should be. So what I want to do today is I just kind of want to give you my idea. Now, listen, a couple things. There's a lot of different ways Ghostbusters deviates depending on what you're watching, okay? If you watch the first movie, the second movie, and then Ghostbusters Afterlife as a companion piece, that is one universe. That is one storyline. It discounts the cartoons, the video game. Those things did not happen for the movie universe. Obviously, there's the 2016 reboot with all the girls, which, hey, if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, you do. Whatever. Entertainment's subjective. I'm not trying to argue that point. Personally, I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Yes, it's problematic. There were a lot of things about it that they could have fixed, that they should have fixed, especially dealing with comedy and with the character interaction. But not the point. The point is that exists as its own universe, right? So it does not connect to any of the other properties. Meanwhile, you have the cartoon, which does actually take into account the events of the first movie and the second movie, but they actually go out of their way to say that the movies you've seen are movie versions of the events, because in the cartoon universe there's an episode where they're interviewed about it, and they actually like talk about the events, and then another episode where they go to the premiere of that film. So it's actually kind of cool that in the cartoon universe the movies exist as movies, which I thought was really neat. So Peter Venkman exists as Peter Venkman, and then in that universe, Bill Murray is a real person, an actor who plays the character Peter Venkman, based on Peter Venkman. Okay, anyway. So the cartoon universe kind of sort of exists on its own, with the movies existing as some form of movie media in that universe. The video game, which came out in like 2011, 2010, the video game exists as sort of a third movie. it is a direct sequel to the first two films, and is written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, who played Ray and Egon, respectively. They're also the creators of Ghostbusters, and they wrote the first two films. But the game acts as a third installment. It discounts. Obviously, it was written before Afterlife, so it does not take into effect Afterlife story. It discounts that the cartoon happened. The cartoon did not happen for that game. Neither of the cartoons, because there's the Extreme Ghostbusters cartoon. So the video game exists in a timeline where it's just the first two movies in the video game. Okay. Whew. That's a lot of timelines, right? That's a lot to try to get. So for the purpose of all of this, the reason I say all of this, the purpose for all of this is to say that my TV show would follow the events of the first and second movie and the video game. Now, chronologically, or in time, the video game takes place in 1991, I believe. So my show takes place in 1996, many years later. So here's the premise of the show. It's been quite a few years, obviously, since 96. I mean, it was 5 years since the video game. For those who don't know, the end of the video game, you play a new fifth Ghostbuster in the video game. They just call him the Rookie. And at the end of the game, you've saved the world and everything, and they sort of hint at, hey, we want to help set you up with a franchise. So the idea of the show is that time has moved on, and Ghostbusters have become a franchise in most every major city in America. And what they do is they offer franchising rights to anyone who comes in and gives them, $100,000 or whatever it is, or $50,000 or $100,000 to set up the franchise. They come out to New York. They have to bring their crew. The crew train for like 6 weeks out of the firehouse, and then they go to whatever city, and they have to rent a place and blah blah blah, set it up, and then Ghostbusters. An umbrella company now exists called Ghost Corp, which also, by the way, exists in real life. That's the production company now for Ghostbusters. Peter Venkman has become CEO and emeritus president of Ghost Corp, and his job is to travel all over the world and find backers for financiers to invest, to cut deals with cities, to be able to put Ghostbusters in each city. They've become public works utilities like firemen, police officers, ambulance drivers, and Ghostbusters. Ray, he teaches out of New York State University, but he is in charge of sort of the research of information. He keeps a library, a ghost library exists at the college, and he works out of there. Egon moved out to Silicon Valley and set up some Spengler Corps or something that develops home computers. Basically, he becomes the Steve Jobs of this universe, creating, people have whole computers and laptops, and as time would go on, they'd eventually be, more stuff like phones and things like that. Once we get to that era, in history. But he also develops other ghost tech that gets sent out. The only person who remains behind at the firehouse is Winston, who is sort of the drill sergeant. He's the guy in charge of training the new crew. But there's also a New York Ghostbusters franchise. So there are these guys, there's 5 of them that, I say guys and girls, it's a mixture, obviously, I'm just using guys colloquially. It's a group of Ghostbusters who actually have like a high-rise apartment, it's a downtown Manhattan office. It's, they're very well paid, they're very prestigious. They're sort of the publicity hounds. Everybody knows them as the Ghostbusters. So they become rivals in the show to the new crew. So that's the premise of the show, is that all this stuff is kind of getting spread out, and there are Ghostbusters everywhere now. Our show focuses on a new crew that have been brought in, and they're kind of Police Academy style losers, and not as hokey as that, but they're sort of the losers of society, the dregs of society. This is a new program that the Ghostbusters have started where they're kind of taking people who don't have the money to franchise to train them as backup for other franchises. So that's where the show begins, is we get people who are, you know, they're not as interested in being Ghostbusters, but it's a free, you know, free room and board, free meals. You know, all they got to do is do the work. And so the first season is really just kind of getting to know these individuals on different busts that they do, but also starts planting the seeds of a cult that's trying to summon a demon, a Cthulhu-style demon from another universe, as well as sort of planting the seeds that the New York Ghostbusters, the ones that are, you know, the famous ones, maybe they're not just jerks, maybe something more is going on with them. So it's the first season would very much so be sort of, I don't want to say Creature of the Week style storytelling, because it's not, but because there is a through line about this cult, but it is different. Each episode is a different bust, you know, 45, 50-minute episodes, and then they're all connected over time. And then as the show were to go on, your second season, I call it Tour of America, where they're going from New York and they're driving to LA because the LA office just got set up and they need some people to drive out there. The whole season is them going through America, dealing with famous haunts throughout America, but also there's a through line that leads them to LA and stuff's happening there. And then the third season is about that Ghostbuster, the New York Ghostbusters, and how stuff is, they are doing something that they shouldn't be doing that could potentially cause the end of reality. So anyway, that's the premise for this show. Now, I could probably go on with different episodes that I've created and stuff like that. For the sake of argument, let's just say that first season is what you focus on, and you really focus on the group. Now, normally you'd think, well, it should be 4 Ghostbusters. No, we're going to do 5. I like a good ensemble cast. But also, it's so if you choose to kill off one of the characters through the course of the season, you certainly can. But I like the idea that there's a group of 5 of them instead of 4. And then you have Winston in the mix too, so you'd actually get Ernie Hudson to come back to play the sergeant at arms, so to speak. He's the drill sergeant, training them and teaching them and kind of helping them go out on their own. Anyway, that's the Ghostbusters series that I envision. I really like the idea that it's set in the mid-90s, so you can kind of reverse tech a little bit. It doesn't have to be modern technology. All the other Ghostbuster franchises get the newest and latest technology. Cool stuff like trap grenades and, the proton packs that do all sorts of different, stuff from the video game. But the people training out of the firehouse get the most basic of equipment. This is like the original classic packs that sometimes don't even work right, and that's because it's just the old equipment that nobody wants anymore. Anyway, that's my idea. That's my pitch for a Ghostbusters TV show. What do you guys think? Have you ever thought about doing what a Ghostbusters TV show would be like? Does this sound interesting? Does this sound super boring? Obviously, I would do 10-episode seasons on a streaming service somewhere. Let me know what you think. Leave some comments below. The only thing I ask is that you're respectful of people in the comments. Hey, we can all disagree. That's fine. Let's just be respectful and disagree. If you want, feel free to send me an email. If you don't want to put a comment out in the public forum like that, davidcampproductions@gmail.com. Link is in the description below. You're more than welcome to do that. Do the YouTube shuffle, guys. Give me a like. Give me, subscribe. Do comment. Help me. That helps me out a lot. And if you like what you hear, please come back. We've got so much stuff to do. There's always new stuff to talk about. I really appreciate you listening this far. Thank you for hanging out with me today. And as always, this is Matt Powers saying, Powers out.